I think actually the hardest thing to do is when you're not feeling great, right? Like we'll get in our own little funks, or maybe the finances aren't there and you're thinking, oh my goodness, this is really tough. And yet you still have to show up.
Welcome to the Jeff Sutherlin Show. Let's grow today as we learn from decades of real estate and leadership experience.
We want you to know that when you log into this show, you're going to get authentic conversation. We're going to give it to you straight, and it's going to be real. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Jeff Sutherlin Show. Today, I'm here with my co-host, Bella Loomis. And as you know, I operate a very successful and productive real estate company in Phoenix. Our team is amazing. We can help you out with anything you ever need, any assistance, we're here for you. But today, we get to meet a very dynamic lady, a very driven person that lives on the outskirts of Yosemite National Park in the Central Valley of California. Her name is Courtney Twiss. I just think the world of Courtney. When I first began this podcast, I wanted my audience to hear from some of the very best and brightest in the entire industry of real estate, and also talk a lot about leadership. And once again, I will not disappoint you today. Today, you will get to know Courtney Twiss, a woman of faith, a woman who has been in the real estate business for, it's been about 20 years, right, Courtney?
20 years, real estate.
All right. And she's helped countless clients with their home purchasing process. She also owns a portfolio of short-term and long-term rentals along with Airbnbs. And if that isn't enough, she's also earned the award of the best real estate broker in the Central Valley of California. Bomb. She has been running that brokerage, I think, for around 10 years, if I'm right. She'll correct me if I'm wrong. I truly look up to her. She balances all this while being a great mom to 3 daughters. So lean in today, my friends, because I have a very amazing person who's achieved a great level of success. And that's why she's at the top of her game. So Courtney, welcome to the Jeff Sutherlin Show.
Wow. Thank you, Jeff. What an intro.
I tried.
That was pretty spectacular. That makes me feel pretty good. I got to have my husband listen to that.
Exactly, right? Exactly. Well, you are pretty amazing, and I've enjoyed working with you, Courtney. There's certain people in the company that we work in, eXp Realty, that I kind of try to model a little bit off of, and I definitely try to model off of a lot of the things you're doing. So, we met a couple years ago, and I was just immediately impressed. And you have a business partner, and I've learned you're trying to always improve yourself. So, I'd love to hear your story. Tell us a little bit about how you transcended into an indie broker, and you actually found yourself over to EXP, and how'd you get through the hard times? Tell us your story.
Okay. Well, like you said, I've been in between lending and real estate 20 years, a little over 20 years. Pretty much right out of college. I went to Chico State. My husband and I both went to Chico State. So work hard, play hard was sort of the mantra back then, and it still is for us. And have my degree in business marketing as well as Spanish. So I was able to take those and, translate them into, lending and the real estate side. So I was, doing the whole commute down to the Central Valley because there's not a whole lot of opportunities for careers near Yosemite, as you could probably imagine. And here I am, a new grad, a couple degrees. I'm like, what on earth am I supposed to do in Mariposa, California? And so I commuted, and I got into finance and the lending side. Got into a management role, and was working, 12 hours a day. And when my husband and I decided that we wanted to have a family, I realized that was not really conducive to how I wanted to live my life. I was not even enjoying where I was living because I was working. I was gone all the time. And so from there, I transitioned into a wholesale lending capacity and then overlapped it with real estate, catching the market right at the beginning of the recession.
Wow.
So that is where I learned the ropes as a brand new realtor. I was like the short sale queen. As you can probably remember that time, huh?
Oh my gosh, it was a rough time. I mean, it's, I'm sure you've experienced many sellers who are in tears. It was not only did you have to transact real estate, but you had to be a counselor, a psychiatrist. It was hard, very hard.
It was a very tough market, and my husband was in construction. So we weathered the storm somewhat as a two self-employed people in the household. So it was extremely tough. My husband and I learned some really humbling lessons the hard way during that phase in our life. We recognized that we were over leveraged with debt, like so many in our industry and just our family members, people we know. We realized we could not afford our home that we had bought. So we ended up doing Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace program, if you're familiar.
Yeah.
We ended up pretty much had to dig our way out of debt, not only ourselves, but for my husband's company as well. So it was a really, really, really tough period of time. But we learned the best lessons while we were still young of, okay, we're never going to do that again. We're going to be really thoughtful with how we spend our money. We're not going to over leverage. And we moved on to our fence yard to save money. We lived in a manufactured home for 7 years.
Did you really?
And we really did. This is kind of slight tangent, but we actually purchased a manufactured home from a 55 and older park for $26,000, which we had to borrow from my parents.
Are you?
And gave notice to the park and moved it onto our fence yard, paid them off in a year. And then we ended up, we were having our daughters, right? And we stayed there for 7 years while we saved money to buy property and build a home, which is what we ended up doing. And of course, along the way, we picked up our first Airbnb. So we have quite a few stories.
Every single time I hear somebody's story that's successful, there's always a tough time, and it's really, it kind of defines your character. And, you hear a lot of real estate agents right now saying, oh my gosh, this market's so hard. And quite honestly, I think it is. It's like the third hardest affordability market in the last 40 years. You have to go back to the 80s to have something that's happened recently. But still, when you went through like 2006 and 2009 and these different years, man, that was brutal.
It was brutal. It was very, very difficult. I almost didn't stick with real estate. I actually hired on at the local newspaper for like 3 months, and I was supposed to just be, running the front desk, and I ended up selling ads to everybody because I couldn't help myself as, born saleswoman. And I realized, okay, if I'm going to be doing this, I might as well get focused back on real estate and, got my broker's license. And of course, here I am still in it and loving it. So I'm glad that I persevered, because it's tough times. It's easy to say, you know what, maybe I'm not cut out for this, or is it worth it when times are tough? And I think there's a lot of realtors that have been experiencing that over the last couple of years. Well,
and before I kick it over to Bella, what would you tell agents right now, Courtney, that are saying exactly that? They're like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to renew. I don't know if I want to continue to do this in 2025. It's been a rough year. What's the message for them?
Well, the message is that it's cyclical. And that's the nature of our industry. So it's actually a great opportunity that we've been going through what is essentially a transactional recession for the last 2 years, because it means that we're going to be coming out of it. And I do feel that wholeheartedly over the next few years that we will see our transactions increase. As rates start to decrease, we're going to see more sellers coming off the fence and in a position where they might be able to make a move, and not because they have to. So just keep persevering. You have to put in the work. Oops, sorry, my little nose here. You have to put in the work and put your head down. And sometimes you got to just do the grind, but it will pay off because everything takes time. And I just think if you stick with it and maybe find a mentor to help you along the way, you will do well and you will thrive.
So, fundamentals, basics, working your sphere, having a lot of grit, right? And also belief. You got to believe, right? That there's going to be better times, and you got to believe in yourself. I mean, there's so many different things that come into play.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Optimism. You got to be optimistic. I'm always an optimist. There's always a silver lining. Always.
Yeah.
I love it. And like Jeff said earlier, we've learned about all leaders have that setback that you were talking about, and you learned and you were most proud of just persevering. But what did you learn about yourself during that time?
Mm-hmm.
Well, from a leadership perspective, I think anyone that has been in a leadership role, whether you've led a brokerage, you've led a team, I think actually the hardest thing to do is when you're not feeling great, right? Like we'll get in our own little funks, or maybe the finances aren't there and you're thinking, oh my goodness, this is really tough. And yet you still have to show up. Like you still have to show up for your people, and you still have to be there, and you just have to keep putting your one foot forward and doing what you need to do to lead your team. And I would say that's something that I've learned is you just have to continue. You have to keep moving forward. Don't you agree, Jeff? I mean, you led a huge brokerage.
Yeah, you have to adapt all the time. You got to keep moving forward. I believe in the law of the lid, right? Which means that the rate of growth in the organization cannot exceed the rate of the growth of the leader. So if things aren't going well in my organization, whether it be my revenue share group or any group I lead, I always look at myself first. Right. I never, ever blame anybody else. I have to look at myself first and take complete ownership of that, because when you believe that you're in charge of your destiny, there's freedom in that. You can't blame anyone else, because you can actually fix it yourself. You have the ability to go off every day and fix it yourself. And that's what I love about our industry is every single day I can get a raise in real estate. I'm not sitting in some corporate job where somebody can come down with the hammer and go, you know what, today you're on a spreadsheet and you are done. Nope.
Right. Oh, agreed. That's why I could never go back to a W-2 job, except for if it's myself paying myself a W-2. You know what I mean? That's why we're entrepreneurs. There's no cap. There's no lid. The sky is the limit, truly. I love that about being in real estate.
Yeah. And as we talk more about like changes that we all have to make, what are some of the changes you think, Courtney, that agents are going to need to continue to make in their business to be viable, right? We want to be a viable entity for our clients and give them a lot of high fiduciary service. What do we got to do? Like, what's our secret sauce need to be? What's your secret sauce,
I would say just be open to opportunities. Because there are opportunities that are going to come in front of you. And if you are having tunnel vision, or you're like, oh, I've always done things this way, or my brokerage has always done things this way, and you're not looking for opportunities, they're going to go right by you, and someone else is going to snag them, and they're going to fly, and you're still going to be stagnant. So don't be okay with being complacent. Complacency is your worst enemy, right? You know, Good to Great, the book. Good is the enemy of great. And I truly believe that. So I'm always looking for change. And I know most people think change is scary and it's hard, but to me, change equals opportunity. And I think that moving forward, we've seen a lot of changes this year with the NAR settlement, with contracts, a lot of attrition in our industry with brokerages. And now we've got AI, which is an amazing tool that agents need to be, utilizing, because if they don't, they're going to get left in the dust. And I just think you've got to be open to opportunities.
Yeah. Speaking of that, like in your local market, I'm always hearing stories over here in Arizona that everybody's leaving California. And quite honestly, I love California. I think it's one of the most beautiful places on earth. In fact, Bella's run up Half Dome. She's a Half Dome person. So,
Hey.
I'm sure you have too.
I have. My husband and I have. Yeah, it's a great accomplishment. I got peer pressured into it, Bella, by the way, by my husband. I said, that is not on my bucket list. I do not feel this burning desire to do it. I'm not ready. And I did it, broken my darn hiking shoes while I did it, but it was a great accomplishment. You can't feel better than when you're at the get back from Half Dome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I was crying the whole time, but I did it.
I mean, the fact that you live on
You'll have to do it, Jeff.
I just think it's so cool you live by Yosemite. I think it's so beautiful. But is it true? I know people have left California, but how about the Central Valley where you live in that area? Are people still leaving? And what kind of predictions do you have for next year for California, your local market?
Well, I believe we've had a lot of people leave California. That is accurate. I want to say 1.2 million in the last, don't quote me exactly, but maybe 4 years or so, 3 to 4 years. So that is accurate. And I think we've had less than 70,000 come back. but they're, hey, that's still 70,000. But one thing from our market, so we're in more rural communities, right? So I have a couple offices outside both corridors of Yosemite, and then I have many agents that work in my organization that are in the Central Valley. And we actually have experienced a huge migration into our areas from urban populations. So, I mean, we've talked about it, I'm sure, before with COVID, right? People were moving from the Bay Area or LA to rural communities. So we've actually had quite an influx into our market, and the Central Valley specifically is very affordable compared to most of California. So where our, average home prices are in the mid 400s, that's doable for a lot of people compared to San Francisco or LA or some of those where it's, triple that, if not more.
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize it was that affordable, really. So that's new news to me. That's good. Speaking about, just real estate and the company we're in together, right? You and I have a lot in common. We've both had independent brokerages. We're entrepreneurs. Your organization is growing at eXp Realty, and so is mine. And so why are people joining up in your organization, Courtney? Why are you so special? I mean, I know a lot of reasons why, but I want you to explain why is it so great to work in your organization, and why is eXp growing so much, and why are we so different than most brokerages?
Mm-hmm. Well, I brought my brokerage over a year ago, just a little over a year ago. It was a really big decision. I was a hard no for a very long time. You couldn't have paid me to say that I was going to end up working with eXp. I had been at an independent brokerage as a realtor, and then 12 years ago started my own. So it's funny, like back to, being open to opportunities, because I had my little tunnel vision and I had my ego that many brokers have. My name's on the signs. I'm like, no way am I going anywhere. Yep. And yet here we are a year in, and there's a lot of reasons why I think people are choosing eXp. I mean, clearly we're the front runner when it comes to the cloud-based model. And the model is really, really hard to beat. And I know this because I was recruiting against it for years, trying to grow my independent brokerage. And yes, there are some other options now that are out there that are cloud-based. And that actually gives me a lot of hope, because it shows that our industry is adapting and we're moving the right direction. And we need to do that to better serve our clients, and as leaders to better help our agents, set them up for success. So what I've known or noticed from eXp over the last years is we're constantly adapting. We're constantly coming out with new resources to assist our agents. And I saw it was pretty evident a couple of weeks ago at eXpCon with all the tools that they're rolling out, the 80 plus hours of training that's free that our agents get to take advantage of. This fast cap program for new agents is going to be phenomenal. I'm so excited about it. And I think while that's all great, I made the move because of the people, and that caught me off guard, because I thought, how can a cloud-based brokerage have a strong culture? There's no way. You have to come in the office. You have to physically see people to build culture, was kind of how I always thought. And I've been very, very, very pleasantly surprised that it's not what I thought it was going to be. There's all these little villages in eXp, and you find your people, and Jeff and I connect all the time, and we see each other multiple times a week. And I feel like I have known him forever, and I wouldn't have had that if I hadn't, joined eXp. So that's been a really pleasant surprise that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, it's almost like a family reunion when you see people in person, right? After you work so much with them online, you're like, you just know them, and it's like you just see them in person. It's so exciting just to be like, hey, So exactly. Yeah, that's really cool. No, you bring a good point. There's cream of the crop people that have been coming over here and continue to come over here. So it's neat to hear your story. And I ask the same questions. How do you create culture at a cloud-based brokerage? Actually, I think it's even easier because you have such easier access to people, and right. Instead of having to wait for, For example, like, in the traditional way of real estate, you have to wait for a broker typically sometimes for hours. If you're in a traditional brick and mortar, I love the fact that I can get immediate support, in my model, which is very helpful, especially, it's very efficient. So I don't know if you've run across that, Courtney.
Oh, absolutely. I was in the EXP world the day before yesterday to go over a question on a file, and I got in within probably less than 4 minutes. It was really, really quick. I've talked about that with my team that came over with me. I'm not that quick. I wouldn't have been that quick to respond. So it's nice to have, in our state, we have 5 brokers on duty every single day. And so while, my team, I say, hey, I'm the first person, come to me if you have a question. How do we keep a deal together? You want to bounce ideas. But if it's something legal or something that I don't know, I no longer have to figure it out like I would have. And I say, hey, go to one of our brokers on duty. They'll have an answer to you within minutes. And it's like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, absolutely. And then one more question on that. When you came over and you had your indie brokerage, of course, you had a vision, right? You had dreams for your indie brokerage. How have those dreams changed now that you're with EXP, right? What do you see for your future versus what you saw before?
Well, so, I'm a visionary, and Michelle Roderick, my business partner, is more of the integrator type role. She has a more operational mindset. So we've balanced each other well. So I would say I've always thought pretty far in advance, right? It's not uncommon for me to be thinking about 10 years from now. And then I backtrack that to my 3-year, vision, have it all on paper, backtrack that to a year. So I think with EXP, it's like an easier way to scale. I've always wanted to grow. I wanted to grow my brokerage, and I thought I had to do it with physical brick and mortar locations in all over. I was going to take over the Central Valley, and I got to 3 locations, and then I realized, okay, I am actually not enjoying this. I have 3 daughters, and I'm running myself ragged, going from office to office to office. There has to be an easier way to do this, and that is what I've found with the EXP model. Is it's so much easier to scale. It's not easy, but it's just a really great platform that we can leverage. And now I'm talking to agents all over. We're just getting ready to have one in our 4th state, which is exciting. I'd like to have one internationally by the end of this year.
Yes.
And we're the stories that we're hearing and we're learning from so many. And like you said, the people that we're attracting and that I'm seeing now that are coming to EXP are top producing agents, team leads, independent brokers. And that's who I want to be in the room with. And that's exciting to me. So, you are who you surround yourself with.
It's about being in the right rooms with the right people.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Courtney, how do you balance everything? You have a great family, you're a great businesswoman. Are there any daily rhythms that you have, or how do you just do it every day?
Well, I don't balance it. That is a total BS myth that you can balance. Like, there is no 50-50 split on work and home life. Like, it's an aspiration that especially women tend to do it, right? We want to have kids. We want to be super mom, super wife, super at business. And I do think you can have all those things, but you have to get comfortable with the imbalance. And I've talked about this at some speaking engagements that I've had, because I'm actually really passionate about that. I tell my kids, hey, right now, like Michelle and I have some major growth occurring in our organization, and we're doing some traveling. I might not be home as much over the next few months, but then when I get this dialed in, I'm not going to miss your guys' sports, right? Like it goes up and down. So there's times where it's all focused on family, times where maybe it's a little more focused on work. And our kids get that. They've grown up in a household full of entrepreneurs, and we've involved them with our businesses. Jeff mentioned we're in the short-term rental market as well. We've had Airbnb since 2015. Now we have a hotel. We own a hotel, and our kids were involved every step of the way. They know how to do projects and build sweat equity, and they know how to go out and they've showed properties with mom. They've gone on estimates with their dad and the construction. So we try it all in, and we know that it's not always going to be balanced, and sometimes it's going to be chaotic, but that's how I do it. Whether you think that's a good way to do it or not, that's how we do it.
Courtney, that's next
I
level.
love it because
Go ahead.
You're putting that expectation up front with your kids, and then your kids are excited to see you guys work hard and just, go throughout the days of not being balanced. I love that.
I think the greatest gift you can give your children is grit. They have to have grit. And I think it's missing from a lot of our society. Things are not always going to be easy. The good stuff will never be easy. And so we want to make sure our kids know that. They have a lot of chores. We have farm animals. We live in a remote area. So while that's a blessing, it also comes with work. And we think that's good. That's a good thing to cultivate in your children.
I think that whole work-life balance thing is a total BS myth. I really do. I think I used to believe in it, not so much anymore, because when you get focused on a project or you're trying to hit a really tough goal, you're going to be out of balance for a while. I think that if you're out of balance for a long time, that's not sustainable. Right. I don't think I agree with you, Courtney. I don't think it's something that it's not realistic. And honestly, what you said about just our society in general, people are either going to like this or not like it. But, I think the generation coming up, we've created a lot of soft people, and that's why I like working with Bella, for example. She's got grit. She's a very hard worker. She's very determined. She's competitive. That's why she was a Division I softball player and went to the World Series of softball, right? Because she's got resilient grit, so you just see a lot of people that we've created kind of a soft society, so I'm right there with you. I think that's what we owe our children. They're going to emulate, how we act, and they're going to know that if Courtney gets hit, she's going to get up again, and
right.
So boy, I could go on and on about this, Courtney, but I agree with you.
Yeah. And I've been hit. I've been down, and our kids have seen it, and they have went through the recession with us, even though they were little, and they had their little piggy banks of saving, giving, the 3 areas with Ramsey's recommendations. And anyway, we involve them in everything that we do. And I think that's like the perk of having your own business and your own company, is that your children can be a part of it, be a family business.
What's funny, Courtney, is you're highly successful, but yet you started taking Financial Peace University and learning how to use cash, right? Basic stuff, right? That most Americans never get taught. But I just think it's so interesting that, people are like, oh my gosh, Courtney Twiss, she's amazing. She's so successful. Well, you had to start like everybody else. You had to learn some of the basics about money, because quite honestly, our school system doesn't really teach, how to manage money hardly at all. Would you agree?
Agreed. Absolutely. Some critical steps are being missed when it comes to finances.
Yeah. I mean, do you use those? Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just thinking, even with like student debt, like, we're telling our kids, go to college. Oh, it's okay. You can get student loans. No, don't do that.
Yeah.
We've cultivated an economy and a culture that is over leveraged. And I could not be more passionate about how that is not the way to do it.
Yeah. Kicking the can down the road. Right. Yeah, it's I appreciate you sharing that. I totally agree with you on that. I think some things are worth holding on to, and that's a concept that I would hope that people we need to listen to the people that have gone through so much. When you listen to Dave Ramsey, I listen to him all the time. He's great. I love the stuff that he teaches, right? And I still use a lot of it to this day, right? And there's certain basics about financial management that we need to hold on to. And boy, you know what it was like way back in like 04 and 05. So many of the people in our industry were completely over leveraged. I mean, I knew people, Courtney, in Phoenix, that were losing like 10 to 15 houses. It was really nuts.
Well, it was. And that's okay, right? There's lessons. As long as you learn your lessons, And so you think, well, there were so many of us that went through that, but where are we now? So you mess up, you get back up and you go, okay, write this down, learned this lesson. God had this plan for me. Now what? And I think that's where it's okay to mess up, and it's okay to fall on your face, like fail. What is it? Fail forward, I think is the phrase.
Yep.
Fail forward. If you're not failing, then you're not trying hard enough. I've had so many ideas, and maybe 1 out of 100 are good. Just ask Michelle Roderick or my husband. But you have to keep trying. You just have to keep trying and persevering.
Yeah. The book is Failing Forward by John Maxwell. John Maxwell,
Right.
yeah, one of the best authors ever when it comes to personal development. Yeah. Well, I work with you a lot. We see each other multiple times during the week as we help each other grow our businesses. And I see very big things in your future, Courtney. I really do. And so when you look at next year in 2025, what are you most excited about? Like, tell me maybe a project or projects you're like really pumped about that you're really like focused on right now.
Well, bringing the brokerage over, I was able to reset in different ways in my business. Also regarding profit margins, I was able to kind of do a major restructure, which has been good. So I feel like I have a really strong production team in place now for my local market that are hungry, hardworking, humble. It's a good, small, solid group that's going to work the production side of my business from a local level. And that's been this year of getting that all set up how I want it, where they're representing my brand, which I've been able to retain even with my move with EXP, which has been great. But my main passion and my focus is on leading leaders. And I get to do that by growing my organization and partnering with stellar realtors and brokers in different markets. And so that is definitely the focus that Michelle and I have moving forward over this next year. And we have some major stuff in the works right now of people that we're bringing on, and we are anticipating some significant growth. So we're just making sure that we're ready for it and we're excited. And I think there'll be multiple events that we'll be going to, including Cabo in March, which is one of my favorite. In case anyone wants to join Jeff and Bella in Cabo, that's a great event. You should definitely come.
Right on, right on.
Yeah.
So leading leaders, one of my favorite topics. So what is your secret sauce when it comes to leading leaders? What gets you cranked up and excited about doing that? Tell me more about that.
I would just say that I match their energy. So if someone's like really gung-ho and driven and wants to go, I'm all in. I'm ready to do one-on-ones. I'll connect them with whoever I think will help them move the needle in whatever direction they're wanting to go. If they're talking but maybe not walking the walk, then I'm not going to pour in as much. I think that's reasonable. I've learned that lesson as a leader over the years as well. So I would just say, we've been able to attract some really strong realtors that want to grow, and we're all growing together. And I think that's the beauty of being a strong leader in real estate, is just being a connector. And whether it's connecting them with other people of influence or other resources or tools, which we just keep getting more and more of through EXP, that's how I pursue excelling in leadership, right? Leverage, I guess.
Yeah, it's you don't typically want to swim after people that are always swimming away from the boat, right? You want to attract people that are swimming towards the boat. And that's something I've learned over the years. You can't force somebody to want to do something. It's got to be an intrinsic thing coming from their heart. They got to have that inside of them. And I think that's one of the things I've learned over the years. I've tried so hard to convince people and try to get them to believe, and over and over and over. And it's like the talent's going to see it very quickly, and they're going to act on it, and that's something that I've learned over the years. And it's another thing that I found interesting about leadership. Last night, I was talking to a group of newer agents, and I said, I think there's two very important days of your life. One, when you were born, and the second one is when you know why you were born.
That's the key, and that's hard to know.
Right. And I asked them all, do you know, why were you born? Why did God put you on this earth? Some of them did not have answers. But I would encourage everybody who's listening to this broadcast to really think about that. What is your mission? What's your assignment here on earth? I believe my assignment's very clear. I have my faith assignment that, I will talk to people about the gospel and God's message to people. But I also, as a leader, I think my job is I like to see things that people don't even see in themselves. Right. And I like to challenge people to rise up to a level that they may not even believe in themselves, and give them something to think about and go, wow, maybe I can achieve that. And then give them real tools to help them do that. Right. Not just say, yeah, I think you could do that, but also give them real things that they can do that's got meat on the bone that can help them get there. So, because I think, I've always said 99% of the conversations we have are with ourselves, and sometimes they're with other people. I learned that through a great book called Fierce Conversations. So we tend to self-sabotage ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. And if we can just increase our self-esteem, and if I can help people see this is what you can do, you're worthy, you're a worthy person. I think that's my gift that I offer the world. And I think everyone does. Courtney, do you have a gift? You have many gifts, but have you thought about that? I'd love to hear it.
Well, I was just thinking as you were talking that I've seen your gift in action because you've been my coach for a year now. Then that's why we see each other so regularly. And you are always so uplifting to be around. He's got a charismatic smile. Whenever he jumps on, you're very humble, and that's just it's nice to be around, right? You have a comforting presence. And so anyway, I was just thinking that as you're talking, like, I've seen your gifts in action many, many times. I can see why people are drawn to working with you.
I'm going to have to tell my wife that. I don't know if she'd agree with that all the time, but thank you, Courtney.
Well, your spouse sees all sides of you.
Right, exactly.
21 years married, so I get that.
Yeah, exactly. 31 for me going into this year. 31. So.
Oh, wow.
Fast. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, what a blessing. Anything else you want to give to the group before we say goodbye today, Courtney? I want to thank you. I appreciate you, and make sure you tell everybody, where you're at, how they can get a hold of you, all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say thank you for having me on. I have so enjoyed getting to know you, Jeff and Bella, and I think what you guys are doing is amazing. And I'm really, really excited for these next few years. From a business perspective, I think it's going to be great. So if anyone is out there listening and they're just feeling down, don't. It's going to be okay. We will come out of this. And if you need mentorship, you can reach out to any of us on here, and we've got your back because we've been through it, and we will continue to get through it. We've got this, right? We're all in this together. And we're out there. I think people like Jeff and Bella would agree to improve our industry as a whole. And no one can do that on their own. You have to do it together. So for me, you can find me on Instagram as my main platform. It's called All Things Twiss, which is TWISS, no T, All Things Twiss. And I'm pretty quick to respond on there.
I love your Instagram stuff. It's awesome.
There's some funny things.
Yeah, that's great. And you will not be dissatisfied if you call up Courtney. You'll get a great experience. And I hope that you look her up and follow her. And if you have anybody that you have that needs any real estate services or lending services, and especially her area, please keep her in mind. Yeah. If you have anybody that is buying or selling in Phoenix, we've been doing that here for almost 25 years. And we've sold hundreds and hundreds of houses. We love what we do. I've worked in new homes, resale. I've owned companies. I am passionate about making sure you get a great experience. I have a great team. Bella's one of our team members. Chase is our other team member. So we're here to help you. I ask you to subscribe to the Jeff Sutherlin Show, our podcast. It's on YouTube. And if you want to go to our website, it's jeffsutherlin.com. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching today. And make sure you say hi to Courtney. And Courtney, we appreciate you. You're a blessing.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks, Bella.
Thank you.